adaptation of the tale of the Velveteen Rabbit by Marjorie Williams.
Once there was a velveteen rabbit who on Christmas Day was given as a gift to a boy. He was placed on top of the Christmas stocking with a sprig of hollies between his paws, which made him look quite charming and splendid. On that Yuletide morning, when the boy first saw the Velveteen Rabbit, the boy easily got to like him and so played with him. This went on the whole day. When dinner time came, the boy's aunties and uncles arrived, bringing with them lots of presents. Excitedly, the boy busied himself unwrapping the gifts and playing with his new gift toys. And the Velveteen Rabbit was left on the floor, forgotten. For a long time, the Velveteen Rabbit stayed in the toy cabinet at the nursery, with no one giving him any attention at all. For after all, he was only made of velveteen, so unlike the other new expensive and superior toys. Elegantly, the mechanical toys romped around, pretending that they were real, and snobbishly looked down on all the other old toys, including the poor little Velveteen Rabbit. This made the rabbit feel so very insignificant and commonplace. There was, however, one gentle toy who was so very kind to him. The horse, the old skin horse, who lived longest in the nursery among all the rest of them, so that his brown, hairy coat was no longer hairy, but balding, with patches stitched on that hardly covered the seams underneath. One day, when they were lying side by side in the nursery, before the Yaya came to tidy the room, the Velveteen Rabbit asked the horse,
"Mr. Skin Horse, what is it like to be real? Does it mean having things that buzz inside you and a stick-up behind the handle?"
Velveteen Rabbit, my young friend, real isn't how you're made. It's a thing that happens to you. When a child loves you for a long, long time, not just to play with, but really loves you, then you become real.
Then the young Velveteen Rabbit asked,
"Does it hurt to be loved? You know, to be cuddled and all?"
Oh, sometimes.
said the Skin Horse, for he was always truthful.
But when you're real, you don't mind being hurt.
Does being hurt happen all at once? Like being wound up? Or does it happen little by little?
Oh, no, not all at once. It takes a long time. And it doesn't often happen to those who break easily, or those who have sharp edges, or those who have to be kept carefully because they easily get hurt. By the time you're real, most of your hair will be loved right off, and your eyes will pop off and drop out, and you'll get loose in the joints and become very shabby. But these things won't really matter at all, because when you're real, you can't be ugly anymore. Except, of course, to people who don't understand what real means.
I suppose you are real?
The Velveteen Rabbit asked. And then he wished he hadn't said it, for he thought the old Skin Horse might be sensitive. But the Skin Horse only smiled and said,
"Oh, yes, yes. The boy's uncle made me real. That was a great many years ago. And once you're real, you can't become unreal again. It lasts for always."
And the Velveteen Rabbit sighed. But in his heart, he was full of hope. He thought it might take a long time before this magic called real would happen to him. He longed to become real, to know what it felt like. And yet, He also thought about the idea of becoming shabby and losing his eyes and whiskers, and he truly found this quite distressing. He wished he could become real without these uncomfortable things happening to him. Now there was a person called Yaya who ruled the nursery. Sometimes she took no notice of the playthings lying about. But sometimes, for no reason whatsoever, she went swooping about like a great wind and hustling them away into the toy cabinets. She called this tidying up. And all the playthings hated it, especially the tin and plastic ones. The Velveteen Rabbit didn't mind it so much, for wherever he was thrown, he came down soft. One evening, when the boy was about to go to sleep, he looked for the rubber dog, but could not find him. Yaya, on the other hand, was in a hurry and simply thought she would search for the rubber dog at bedtime. So she just quickly glanced around and, seeing the toy cabinet door open, reached out for the first thing she saw and offered it to the boy and said, "Here, take your old bunny. He'll do to sleep with you." Grasping the Velveteen Rabbit by one ear, she put him into the boy's arms. And that night, and for many nights after, the Velveteen Rabbit slept in the boy's bed. At first, he found it rather uncomfortable, for the boy hugged him very tightly. And sometimes he rolled over him and even pushed him so far under the pillow that he could scarcely breathe. Then he missed too those long moonlight hours in the nursery, when all the house was silent, and his talks with the old skin horse. But very soon, he grew to like it, for the boy used to talk to him and made very nice tunnels for him under the bed linen that he felt were like burrows the real rabbit lived in. Oh, they also had splendid games in whispers when Yaya had gone down for her supper and left the night lights on. And when the boy dropped off to sleep, the Velveteen Rabbit would snuggle under the boy's tender cheek and dream while nestled within his warm embrace all night long. So time went on. The little Velveteen Rabbit was very happy, so happy that he never noticed how his beautiful velveteen was getting shabbier and shabbier, his tail becoming unsewn, and how all the pink slowly rubbed off from his nose where the boy often kissed him. Then summer came, and they had long days in the garden. For wherever the boy went, the Velveteen Rabbit went too. He had rides in the toy wheelbarrow and picnics with the boy in the lawn. A beautiful tree house was built for them, and they played there. Then came that dreadful day when the boy was suddenly called for his afternoon snack. The Velveteen Rabbit was left out on the lawn until long after the sun had set and darkness had covered his heart with fear. But then, as sleeping time came, Yaya had come around looking for him because the boy wouldn't go to bed without him to sleep with. It didn't take too long, though, before she found him, a little messed up with dirt because they played all day long in the lawn. But he was cleaned up by Yaya, and as she gave the Velveteen Rabbit to the boy, she said to him, "Must you always have to sleep with your old bunny? So much fuss and trouble for a toy." But the boy reached out for the Velveteen Rabbit, saying,
"You mustn't say that. He isn't a toy. He's real. He's my friend. Give me my rabbit. He's real and I love him."
Now when the Velveteen Rabbit heard that, his heart welled up with joy, for he knew at last what the old skin horse said had finally come true. The nursery miracle happened to him. He was no longer a toy. The boy said so. He was loved. He was real. That night, he was almost too happy to sleep And so much love for the boy stirred in his sawdust heart that it almost burst. And from the boot-button eyes shone a look of wisdom and beauty as he recalled his gentle and wise old friend, the skin horse, saying,
Velveteen Rabbit, my young friend, real isn't how you're made. It's a thing that happens to you. When a child loves you for a long, long time, not just to play with, but really loves you, then you become real.
Yes, when you're loved, you become real. The boy believed this, and it happened. And because his heart was filled with so much joy, he imagined himself standing on the mountaintop, shouting with gladness to all creation of God.
I am loved! I am real! And I love you too!
The story of the Velveteen Rabbit ends here, where the story of love begins.